Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Lenovo Slim Pro 9i for 2023. Now this comes in two different sizes, the 16-inch and 14.5-inch model. The unit that I have here that I'm about to share with all of you is the 14.5-inch version. And this is, in my opinion, the most exciting between the two because it's so small and lightweight at under 4 pounds, 3.7 to be exact. But when you look at that spec sheet, from processor to GPU, the display, the 32 gigs of RAM, this thing is a tiny monster. So let me go ahead and get this out of the box and I'll go over specifications. As I do that, important thing to note is that this comes with either a 4050 or 4060 GPU. Of course, the key difference there being the amount of VRAM, really more than anything. The 4050 only has 6 gigs, and of course, the 4060 tops out at 8. But the other thing that you want to know about this model is that it also has a legitimate Core i7 13th gen processor. So we're working with again, an H-series CPU. This is not a low-powered CPU, 32 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte NVMe, and then another star of the show, yes, I said another, is the 14.5-inch 3K mini LED display. Probably the only display out there that will compete with an OLED. So what does this not have? I mean, in terms of ultrabook specifications, this is perfect for, or at least it should be, for content creation, gaming, pretty much anything you could throw at it as long as you understand that, well, this is an ultrabook that all of a sudden has a legitimate processor and GPU rolled up into, again, one of the thinnest and lightest packages out there. But it doesn't end there. The other thing that really makes this machine unique is that it also sports a traditional Type-C 140-watt power brick. So that means you do not need a proprietary massive beast brick in order to power this experience. Now, this review unit has already been opened. That's what happens. That's the game, folks. They travel around from reviewer to reviewer. But that was at least for anyone who thought, you know, maybe I'd already seen this, but this is the first time, like all of you, that I will be looking at this machine. And as I mentioned, the 16-inch model I'll be covering as well for those of you that prefer a larger form factor, a bigger display. But I have to say, just the things I mentioned regarding the power brick that I have right here, I assume, that is such a big advantage. And when it comes to the 16-inch variant, for those of you wondering, the power limitations there with the GPUs are 100 watts, so not a really big jump from the 80 here. Of course, that means a bigger power brick, obviously, in order to deal with, well, everything that comes with having a larger display, and of course, a higher wattage going to the GPUs. So here's that 140 watt brick, very similar to Lenovo's 135 model. In fact, pretty much the exact same form factor. And again, remember, regular Type-C. And that's a big deal because I can't really, point my finger at too many machines other than maybe, the Z13 from Asus that packs this sort of power. And of course, Asus has other models in their lineup, but that packs this sort of power, but still relies on a 140 watt Type-C power brick. Now, when it comes to battery life, at least per the specifications from Lenovo, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to see. You've got to remember, with this GPU and everything, we're probably going to end up somewhere around 6 to 7 hours. They didn't clean this one up, but you can rest assured I will as I spend more time with it. But really a very cool machine. I can already tell you that just taking it out. As I mentioned, 3.7 pounds. I mean, breathe that in, if you will, because to have a machine that's under 4 pounds with this much power is impressive. And they really didn't cut any corners when it comes to I/O either. So it's almost like they're reading my mind, if you will. Full size HDMI port right there, of course, 2.1. 2 Type-C ports, one of which is a Thunderbolt 4 port, the other one I believe it's a 3.2 Gen 1, full-size SD card slot, Loving this I/O so far. Come around to the front of the machine, the classic Lenovo lip, which has been tweaked a little bit. And then we come around to the right side. We've got two more Type A USB ports and a combination 3.5 mil headphone microphone jack, your privacy shutter for the front-facing camera, and your power button. And that pretty much sums it up. Nothing else on this machine except ventilation, and apparently whoever had this last had some very dirty hands and didn't care to clean it up before sending it back. Gross. Anyway, moving right along. And this is kind of a first, so whoever had this last, wow. Wow, wow, wow. But the cosmetics, oh, and I'm finding even more things. Let's go ahead and dump this off. It's pretty gross. But despite being pretty gross from whoever handled it last, this is still an incredibly cool system. Now, as you may already notice, high gloss finish on this. I'm going to try to power it on. We have a really large trackpad. You got to like that, or you don't have to like it, but I think it's a good thing. Backlighting on the keys. Feels like nice key travel here. So I expect that. I mean, Lenovo is just great at that. This is, to my knowledge, pretty much all aluminum. The chassis, both top and bottom. 50% recycled materials. Something that, historically I would have scoffed at this push for recycled materials, but I have to say, all manufacturers really need to get even more aggressive with this because, well, where are we all going to be if they don't? But this display is gorgeous. I mean, the PureSight panel they're using here with the mini LED is just so bright, and I don't even know where I'm at in the brightness scope, so let's check that out. But you're already talking, whoa, okay, so 1200, I think, nits of brightness is what this is rated at, and yeah, touchscreen is a go on this for anyone that was curious. So really best of both worlds, and you'll have to forgive me for this viewing angle or bear with me as I just move it around. But let me go ahead and just log on to Wi-Fi. Give me a quick second here. But I'm really impressed with this machine so far. And in fact, if I wasn't so keen on the Asus Z13 acronym right now, this would probably be at the top of my shortlist simply because it is so powerful and yet so lightweight, and it's basically a zero compromise machine as long as you're not trying to game in 4K. If 1080p gaming, photo and video editing are at the top of your to-do list, a machine like this seems like a perfect package. Remember, 32 gigs of RAM in this, folks. So the days of those 16 gig slugs, which they weren't really slugs, but here in 2023, 16 gigs of RAM for anyone looking for performance, it's a bit of a slug. And just overall build quality on this, everything, I am loving this, for lack of a better way of putting it. So let me go ahead and just change my camera angle here so I can give you a little bit more of a dynamic shot without clipping anything. Go ahead and bring it down. And you now have, I think, a much more advantageous look at it. Let me just tighten things up, make sure everything is as it should be. And really what it comes down to, again, you've got the 16-inch model. Let me take brightness down because it's insane how bright that mini LED got almost instantly. And again, that Core i7 processor, the 32 gigs of RAM, the mini LED display, the I/O that I think pretty much covers every base that you could possibly want from a machine like this. And again, it's mind-boggling that I'm looking at an ultrabook that has the specifications of, well, a mid-tier machine that either would be, workstation material or, of course, gaming laptop. You decide. By the way, the 5 megapixel webcam sitting at the top center there, I believe, does support Windows Hello. And in terms of other things that you need to know, 4 microphones on board for this, so video conferencing should be great. The speaker system, there are 4 speakers in total for the Dolby Atmos certification that it has, and a 75 watt-hour battery. And with that 140 watt brick, you're looking at the ability to, at least per Lenovo, charge this up to 50% in 30 minutes. So hopefully in 1 hour, per their specifications, this thing is completely recharged. Beyond that, this is the storm gray color, and I don't have a literal launch date for this. Remember, you can go with either the 4050 I have here or a 4060. I personally would make the leap to the 4060 to get the 8 gigs of VRAM. Again, just unbelievable that we've got that. And the 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM clocked at 6400 megahertz in here. I mean, this, again, I really think checks just about every box, and there are so few machines competing with this. And remember, that i7 may not be an i9, but it still is an H series processor. We're talking about the 13705. So I'm just impressed with this. I'll be getting to benchmarking. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the battery life is like. And, stay tuned for the 16-inch model if that is a little bit more along the lines of what you prefer when it comes to this particular build. And I didn't even get into the X power performance. That's something I'll touch on another time. But so far, this appears to be one of the most impressive 14.5-inch machines I have ever seen in my life. Yes, I will go that far. And if you follow my channel, you already know I have a passion for high performance in small packages, and this is exactly what this Pro 9i appears to deliver on paper. I can only imagine if we could get a 4070 in here. Of course, power constraints would be yet another issue, but that would be pretty impressive. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them at that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.